All right. Good morning, everybody. So hey, so excited to be thrilled. And so if you can even unmute her, that would be awesome. I think you're a co-host. First and foremost, I am just thrilled to be with you, Karen, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I've had the opportunity to be on the radio I think, with you and the rest of the gang of girls on the air. And you have just, since the moment I met you, been such a champion of everything that we're doing, from the mindset to the skill sets, and especially for as long as you've been in this business, you've continued to have such an open approach to growth and to the possibilities of what is in the future. And I have been endeared by that of who you are as a leader, who you are, and who love. And Campbell, thank you with us.
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, you bet. You bet. Well, thank you. So, all right. So let's just jump right into it. So, Karen, so tell us just a little bit about where you're working, and tell us just a little bit about you. I know that you've been in the business a very, very long time. And in fact, how many years you've been in the business at this point?
I've been in the business 31 years. So that's a very long time.
All right. It's almost like a real, that's the time frame where it's almost like a real job. So that's good. This is good.
Yeah, real job with real.
All right.
Business,
so
right?
Tell us just a little bit about, exactly. Well, just give us just a little bit of insight. Who are you? Like what, you know, I mean, I know it was a long time ago. What were you doing before real estate? Tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we'll jump into some real specific questions.
Sure. So when I got into real estate, my husband was in real estate and wanted me to get in and be a partner and sell real estate together. I worked at Kaiser Aluminum in the customer service department. I made aerospace parts and gussets and hubs for Kenworth trucks. And
oh, wow.
So when I took my test and got in the real estate business, my husband thought that it'd be a good time for him to get out of the real estate business. So that husband and wife team didn't quite work out because he had other plans. So doesn't that always work out, right? So I basically got my feet wet. I thought it was a great job. My goal was to make what I made at Kaiser Aluminum, which was $30,000 a year, and take 2 weeks off. And so my first year in real estate, I made $40,000. So I thought it was pretty cool, and got to take that 2 weeks off. And
that's great.
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of how I started. I wasn't as outgoing as I am now. I was very shy. I didn't want to talk to people. So I built my confidence up by the people that were around me. And that was my brokers at the time, which I started with Century 21. Century 21.
Oh, wow.
So
way back in the day, yeah.
Yes. I worked for Century 21 County Center for 13 years before they sold to Fred Sands, and they sold to Coldwell Banker. And then I opened my own office at Realty Executives. So that's kind of how that story went. But in my real estate career,
I didn't know that you did a realty exec. I owned a realty executives for many years.
Did you really?
So yeah.
Oh.
I did. Yeah, before Century 21, before Everest, for several years, we had a pretty large organization here in Utah, about 300 agents.
Awesome. Well, I had about 25 agents, so not as big.
Yeah, but it's all relative. Just also the populace and everything else. But that's fun. I did not know that. That's fun to hear.
Yeah. And so I did that for 5 years, and then sold it, and then proceeded to be sales manager at that office, and then moved to Venture Property Shop, and then eventually sales manager at Troop. And now here we are. So that kind of brought me full circle.
Here we are. Yeah.
Century 21. And I have to say,
well, that's great.
You know, Century 21 is not your grandmother's Century 21. As it is now. It's way
Yeah, they've kind of ramped it up, haven't they, with all their new marketing, all their new branding, all their new stuff. So it's been fun to see. In fact, actually, I don't know if anyone really knows this, but it's actually one of now the great studies in the industry of marketing as to how they've been able to transition and basically keep the cohesiveness of the the last nearly 50 years of the brand in place, but at the same time being able to change it, elevate it, and move it into a new market, right, where it's cutting edge and it's fresh, it's new, but then also not losing the identity of the last 50 or nearly 50 years of the branding. So it's really as an example to the marketplace in numerous different angles as to how that's been done. So I hope people are leveraging that, especially, I mean, just to be candid, we're all paying for it. So to leverage it would be an important part of that. So Karen, tell us this, what, one of the things that we've seen, right? We've seen the highs and the lows of what's gone on from the COVID. We're seeing some things kind of break open where people are able to be a little bit more freewheeling in regards to the way in which they're transacting business, in regards to at least interaction and conversation, whether that be through Zoom calls like we're doing today, or whether it be through just simply picking up a phone and reaching out to someone. Talk a little bit about just how you're handling the business. I mean, you have 31 years of experience. You make an incredible living in this business. You obviously do things we're going to get to. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing in the community. We'll get to that in a moment. But how are you handling business today? How are you approaching business today?
Well, I get up every morning and I still go to work. So that's the main thing, is I show up. And I also call my clients just as I would as if I was at the office. I call my clients and check in with them, see how they're doing, see if they need anything in this, in this trying time. I've given out food information, help people get PPE. I've helped people just about everything, teach their kids how to get on a Zoom call. Well, so all of those things.
And that has been my point since the inception of this. I mean, I'm hearing it in like real examples as to the two questions, and that is how are you doing and how can I help you?
That's right.
And my observation is just knowing you and just the attitude and who you are, Karen. I know you at this point, that you're not worried about whether it's always going to be how can I help in regards to real estate. It's just simply how can I help into our own business and the things that we're doing from the standpoint of real estate specifically. It'll always pay it forward as you move forward to that. Well, that's great. I love that. What so a typical day, what would you say, like how many people would you say you're speaking to in a given, a day where you're like, okay, hey, I'm doing this today. What's a typical day look like for you in regards to how many people you may speak to, talk to, or call, or how many hours or minutes will you spend in regards to just contacting people on a daily basis? How many hours or minutes would you say you're doing that daily?
Well, I try to do it at least 3 hours a day, and that's usually my minimum. And I usually call about 5 people an hour, because when I call them, they want to hear from me too. They want to know that I'm okay. They want to know that I'm doing well. Yeah. They want to know what the market's doing. They want as much information from me as I want from them. And so that takes a little time.
Haven't you found that, to your point, have you not found that there's just a much deeper relationship, a deeper conversation? People have slowed down just a little bit to listen just a little bit more. More people are answering their phone probably than ever. I mean, have you found that to be the case for you in regards to just the depth of the conversations?
Yes, and I feel people take my calls where when they're working and busy, they probably wouldn't take my call and I'd have to leave a message. But people are at home. Yeah. They're dealing with kids. They get to talk to an adult in most cases, who's asking how are they doing? I'm asking how are they doing? How are you doing teaching your kids online? Is there anything I can do to help with that? And I may not be the person to do that, but I have people that I can call and say, you know what, my friend needs to learn how to do a Zoom call. Can you do that over the phone for her? Or something like that. So everybody has a different need right now.
Love it.
It may be that they're taking care of an elderly person who has just come home from the hospital. They're the next level of care. You know, I've got 2 clients that are doing that. And so I always check in and say, how's your mom doing? Or how's your dad doing? And they appreciate that. So I try to spend as much time as possible.
Big time.
Yeah. I have about 800 people in my database.
Especially if you're sincere. How many people in your database?
I have about 800. So it takes me about a month and a half to get through my database. And, you know, some people need more attention than others. And as you find that out.
And after a month, and make sure I'm clear, Karen. So after a month and a half, give or take, you then start that process over, and your main focus today is working that database, right? I mean, absolutely. As a general rule, would it be safe to say that you're not out knocking or calling on the people like a for sale by owner or an expired listing or a just listed, a just sold, or, you know, or working heavily internet leads, or working heavy people who you don't have a connection with? It's, as a general rule, you're talking to those 800 people on a every 45-day process.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I belong to several networking groups, and I include them in my calling because they have business issues.
I love it.
That they need to talk about. So I basically build my relationships. That's what I do.
So the bottom line, everything that you're about is ensuring that you're building that most important asset, which is your sphere of influence.
Absolutely. And that's what I do with
you're
my
calling
radio.
them, yeah.
That's what I do with my radio.
So let's make sure we don't want to run out of time. Let's just switch gears here really. Yeah, let's switch gears to that. So talk a little bit about what you're doing from the radio standpoint.
Well, from my radio show.
And how that's impacting the community, and how you got started with doing that, because I love that you do it.
Well, it's kind of a long story, and it's kind of a funny story because I had never been in a studio ever in my whole life, and never spoken a mic, didn't know any of the lingo, don't know what people are doing when they're doing this. I have no idea what that meant. That means talk, by the way. And, you know, it came out of a coaching class that I did. So my radio show came from a coaching class. Coach Ron Tunick did a course for us, and there was only a few people that made it through that course. And I was proud to say I was one of those. And the radio show came from that. And so 5 years later, let's move 5 years forward. I'm still doing the radio show. I produce the show. And I talk to 90,000 local residents every single Saturday. So I make sure that there's something of value that they are listening to. I make sure that I am helping the community one way or another. Like this last week, we had Food Share on because we're doing fundraising for Food Share. I encourage everybody that listens to my show to participate.
Absolutely.
So I ask for that business. I ask them to participate. I ask them to call in. And people think they've seen me on TV. I've never been on TV. So my radio show is basically a tool.
You're famous though. You're famous, Karen. Right. So let's talk about this. So there's 2 angles here, right? You're someone who's been doing this for 31 years. You've got 800 plus people in your sphere of influence, your centers of influence, your past clients, people who know you, the relationships that you've championed over the years. So let's just say someone has a much smaller sphere. What advice? I mean, look, you've been on the management side of it. You've been on the leadership side of it. You've been on the coaching side of it. You have agents still come to you asking your advice. What advice would you give to an agent? Because look, you're already telling me still, what I love is 31 years later, you recognize that the single most important asset you've built in this business is your sphere. And then you're spending, you said, a minimum of 3 hours a day still prospecting. And I think that somehow we forget that that is a critical component to the dollars, of course, that you earn, but also the dollars of any agent who's highly successful. Is there's a common thread that they're speaking, communicating, talking to another human being. And that's through the power of their questions or the power of their knowledge and the value that they bring, as you've mentioned. So what advice would you give, though, to the agent right now who may not be able, right? They can't sit open houses as a general rule. They don't have a huge sphere. Maybe they haven't been in the business as long as you have. What advice would you give them in today's marketplace? How do they go do business despite what's going on? And let's just say they have a much smaller sphere. Maybe there's only 50 to 100 people in that sphere today. What else should they be doing?
Well, this is what I think, George. You know, anybody can get new business. I try to get at least 5 new clients a week. That's my goal. Do I always achieve that? No, but I
so
show
you're
up.
at, let's make sure I'm clear. You're at 5 new, hold on. 5 new people added to your sphere? Or are you saying 5 new clients that potentially are going to buy or sell?
5 new clients that are going to potentially buy or sell. So 1 a day. That shouldn't be hard.
Okay.
Sometimes it
Love
is,
it.
I have to say. So 5 new clients a week.
I got hard as long as you prospect.
Right.
The problem is it's agonizing if you aren't talking with people. People can't figure out how are people doing it, and yet how they're doing it is you're spending 15 hours a week finding 5 people that want to do something with you, either want to buy or sell, right?
Absolutely. So what I do is when I see people at the grocery store, I ask them, is there something, you know, if I see someone looking, you know, and I got this from coaching too. So Coach Ron Tunick is like, you know what, go into Costco and talk to 5 people that you don't know. Ask them if you can do real estate for them. And if you can, they'll continue talking to you. And if they won't, then hand them your card and say, you know, if you know anybody else in your family or in your friends, please refer them to me. Here's my card.
Exactly.
And so you don't have to have a lot of clients to do that. You're building your business every single day. And if you get 1 person a day that says yes, then you are building a business, and that you have to ask for that business. You have to ask.
Yes. So, okay. So let me ask you this, Karen, with everything that's gone on, you and I have had a few different conversations. I mean, I know some of the answers that you may give, but I also want to hear it from you. What are you doing to protect or to elevate, to enhance your mindset or your mental toughness through these moments? I mean, you know, there's been a lot of highs and lows, especially as we've said many times on the California side, where there's been moments where you should be able to do business, then 1 minute you can't, then the next minute you can, now you can't, now you're back to being able to, you can. I mean, kind of all over the place. So how are you protecting your mindset? How are you elevating it? What are you doing to enhance it?
Well, to be honest, George, I give back. So I call like the Harvard shelter in Santa Paula and say, what do you need today? And what can I go find for you today? There's a new movement to help homeless move into housing, and it's called Move In. And they need everything. They have nothing. And so what I'll do is I will call my clients and engage them to participate, and then I go and get it. And I bring it to the place where it's most needed. The last couple of weeks, we've been doing nothing but food share. The lines are long. People need that food. And so I've put together a team to help stuff the boxes, to help in line, to put it in their trunks, and to gather food. You know, if you have a tree in your backyard that needs to be picked, I have somebody that can do that. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been giving back and helping the situation versus sitting around moping about it, as I say, because that's really important, is to give back.
That's great. So tell me this. So from your standpoint on mindset, I mean, I'm hearing basically go give back, right? Go pay it forward, go develop relationships, care for people, which you have such a giving and loving heart, which is such a wonderful thing for you. What would you say in regards to someone who needs to elevate their skill sets? What would you say to someone who needs to become just a little bit more in today's marketplace? How would they approach that?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. And what I do is I try to do 1 designation a month, either by getting a new designation from NAR or CAR, or taking a local class or joining the classes. Oh my gosh, you guys have been amazing providing information and classes to elevate your skill set. And then the other thing that I do is I read a lot about real estate. So I always am looking for a reason to call my clients. I'm always looking, what is that next thing? I'm watching the news. I'm getting the statistics from the coronavirus in case somebody wants that. I'm listening what's happening. I read Inman News. I read CAR. I read NAR. I just read everything I can get my hands on. I follow economists. And if you can do that and educate yourself on local current events, you have something to say when somebody asks you something. So you're not lost of words. And I think that's real important.
You become the local expert, right?
Absolutely.
You become that expert, right? You become the person who has the knowledge base. Years ago, I used to champion this idea of where if people would just read the front page of the Wall Street Journal, they'd have more financial understanding than 99% of the people out there if they just read the front page on a daily basis. And then, of course, you brought in or there's Real Trends. There's the HUD website. I mean, there's from the Wall Street Journal to the Investment Business Daily. I mean, there's so much that we can glean to become that expert and to master that craft. So tell me this. So you've mentioned one of the key things, right? Prospect, read, listen, study. What would you say in regards to just personal disciplines that someone should take on? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. So what would be those disciplines that if you could notch 2 or 3 disciplines, what would they be?
Well, the most important one is to dress up and show up. So even when things don't look like something is happening, go to the office, do your thing, no matter what. Maybe it's a day that just nothing happens. But you know what? You still have to do it, because I got to tell you, had I not done that, I would not have deals closing in January, February, and come March when we shut off, I would have had no deals. But in November, December, and January, I showed up even when nothing was happening. And I think that's the most important thing. You have to participate in this business. You can't just wait for it to come to you. You have to go get it.
Well, I love from the standpoint of what you're talking about, from the standpoint of so much can be taken from what we do on the outside, right? From the standpoint that if we're showing up, we're dressing up, we're active from the standpoint of like, almost like it's this showing that we're open for business, with so many things, either being tempered or literally full out all closed. It's almost like it shows this idea that we're open for business, not only for ourselves mentally and emotionally, but it shows out there to even the marketplace, specifically to your point, right? If you jump on a Zoom call, if you jump on a FaceTime call or a Skype or whatever technology one is using, which is really powerful stuff, which is fantastic. So tell me this, Karen. So that one of the things you've talked about is show up, be ready, right? Get after it, like act and show that you're in business. What else would you say to them? What else would you say in regards to disciplines, mindset, skill sets that would be beneficial to anyone listening?
Well, I think the other thing that's most important is to answer that phone when it rings. The only reason somebody's calling you is because they need something. Otherwise, they wouldn't call you. So always answer that phone. And as a skill set, always make sure that you're going above and beyond. Make sure that you're taking care of them. Maybe you don't know how to take care of them, but always try to take care of them so that they trust you and so that they always will call you back. I have people that call for, reasons of just wanting a plumber. They know that I know the best plumber, right? So
yeah, I love it.
You just have to have a way for them to connect with you. And there's many, many, many ways to do that. And you just have to be ready. When they call you, you need to be ready. You need to be able to respond in a couple minutes, not a couple hours. They don't have the time for that. They expect more from us. And so we need to provide that. Need to be ready now. So I think that's real important.
Yeah, No, I think you're spot on. I mean, one of the things is, I keep hearing these words blaring in my head. I mean, there's so many gold nuggets that you've given us today, Karen. I mean, just one of the things I would just mention is just the fact of this one concept, and that is be ready for things to happen. Be ready to help. Be ready with what you're wearing, what you're dressed like, how you're getting ready for the day. Be ready to constantly be able to answer the phone, especially in today's marketplace where much crisis is going on. People are emotionally distraught. And if you have the ability and the availability to be able to answer that phone, I mean, how great is that when that person who's in crisis or in need has your voice on the end of the phone to hear and say hello to them, which I mean, it's great stuff. And the thing that's so interesting, Karen, to me is the things that you've mentioned are such simple and easy things to do. But I think the words of Jim Rohn, who said this one statement, he said, look, what's easy to do is just as easy not to do.
That's right.
And what I'm finding is that when I look at extraordinary people like you, is I look at ordinary people doing ordinary things, but this is the difference consistently. And that makes you, which you are, extraordinary. And I love the fact that you're showing the fact of the simplicity of this business and recognizing that if you do truly keep it simple, you have the ability to do extraordinary things, especially as you start paving the way and the years start to pass by. If you're consistently doing those things, then you reap the benefits of a beautiful business like that you've created, and you thoroughly get to love and to enjoy that business. And now I love what I hear is how much you're giving back, calling the shelters, calling the food banks, calling people who are truly in need, and your ability to be able to help them. It's truly inspiring. So thank you. Very, very awesome.
Thanks so much.
So in these last few minutes, give us this. Tell us what would be your biggest advice. Like, what's our final golden nuggets of takeaway? What would you share with us? Well, what do you think the market needs specifically to the agents?
Well, you have to be on it. You have to have your presentation ready to go at a drop of a hat. Yes, you can customize it, but you know what? People want to know.
So what does that hold on, Karen, what does that mean when you say have it ready at the drop of a hat? I want you to elaborate on that.
Okay, well, my listing presentation is ready to go digitally and ready to go in paper, because not everybody has the ability or even wants to see something digitally. They want to touch and feel it. They want you to tell them about it. They want to know that you've done your job, and you need to be able to explain it to them or hand it to them and have them be able to get it. When you hand that presentation to them and say, this is what I do, and this is how I can serve you, they need to have it in simple terms, because they don't know real estate. I have doctors that are brilliant and they don't know real estate. So they have to have it in third grade language. And that's exactly what we have with Century 21. We have it spelled out so that they can see every detail that we do. We have to tell them what we do, because they don't know what we do. You have to earn that commission. And if you don't, then they're going to go to the next person that shows them that they do earn that commission and that they are valuable enough to list their property. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, that value.
So that would be one of
refined habit. Oh, sorry. There keeps being delays on our.
Yeah, there's keeping delays on my end too.
Yeah, so all good. We're working through it. I think there's been a handful of, someone said, stop cutting you off. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were talking. So we're going through it. But just from this standpoint, as you go through this, I just want to make sure I'm hearing that. I mean, basically, look, have it dialed in digitally so that you can throw it up and either pass it on to them, throw it up on a Zoom doc, or literally the physical content of that. And just, I know people are asking this. Let's just take 1 minute. Tell us what you think specifically, just at least 2 or 3 things that should be in that presentation. What would you say are some of the highlights that you have in yours? Because this is a great conversation right here about the presentation itself, whether it's the buyer or the seller.
Well, you have to say who you are. They have to trust you. They have to know that you can do the job. So you have to have a little bit of information. And I know like people don't like to talk about themselves. I don't either. But you have to be able to tell them that you can do the job. And then the second thing is you have to have a company that stands behind you. Like if something goes wrong, I can go right to you, George, and say, you know what, I've got this problem and I need this handled. What can we do about it, right? And then the third thing is to make sure,
right, absolutely.
Make sure that they're doing their part. This is a partnership when you list a property, that they're pricing it correctly, that they're showing it correctly, that
Love
their
it.
house is clean. You know, all of those things that go along with this partnership that we're doing.
You are so spot on. Yeah.
We can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. In fact, and you're spot on. I mean, for years I've said, look, as a seller, you have 3 responsibilities, and you nailed them really quick, but let's just point them out again. Number 1, we need to make sure the home is priced right. Number 2, we need to make sure the home is in the right to be shown. And number 3, you need to make sure it's available so people can actually see it. Right? Meaning like make sure we have availability, not just these weird hours or weird times because they give up themselves, you know, to a lesser price possibility because of the lack of availability. So I love it. Karen, you are amazing. Thank you for being this shining light. Thank you for always being so positive and upbeat, and you are truly an incredible blessing to the agents of Everest, but also I know to the community and the ways in which you give back and the way in which you serve others. That's the beauty of our business, is that you know, look, there's this idea that we can either do a turn and burn type of business, or we can do a very strong relationship business. And the one thing you're showing is that you can do a lot of business with a deep level of relationships, and that you can love what you do every single day. And I love the fact I can feel that energy from you. So thank you so much for being with us today. Any final thoughts?
You know what? Go out and sell real estate. It's happening right now. Everything's multiple offers. There's hardly any inventory. Don't sit back and wait for this to be over. It's not going to be over for a long time. So just go do what you do. People need you. They do. They honestly need you.
Yeah. Go serve them, right?
That's right.
They do. I think that sometimes we forget that people have got it figured out, and they're looking to you, to us as a group. So Karen, thank you. We're going to do some affirmations, and guys, if they wanted to get a hold of you, Karen, you share an email or a phone number with the group here real quick.
Absolutely. My phone number is 805-320-0225. And my email is venturarealtor@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Hey, perfect. That's great. Because I know there keeps being some significant delays on our timing. Yeah. I don't know if you're feeling that on my side. There's like long delays. So, but all good. All right. So, hey, thank you, Karen. Have an extraordinary day. And thank you for truly, I like what Judy Ford just said, your words of wisdom. And what I love also that you kept saying is, get coached, get coached, get coached. And I keep saying, look, if it's not us coaching you, someone needs to be coaching you. If you're serious about your business, get coached. And as you reflected on many of your knowledge, it came from many different people who've influenced you, coached you, mentored you over these many years. And I love the fact that you continue to have such an open heart and mind to continue to learn even 31 years later in this business, which tells me you have a whole other level that you're going to take your business to, which is incredible.
Thank you, George. It's been awesome.
Okay.